So in the previous slide, I was just mentioning about variation in the individual tendencies. So individually, a person may vary, especially in terms of the food what he consumes, his tolerance or his likes. So now similarly, every individual has a different affinity for diseases, has a different threshold for diseases or causative factor for diseases in terms of food indiscrepancies, whatever he indulges in. Now here is at another reference. So Sharirani cha ati stulani, very obese individuals, ati krishani, very lean individuals, anivishta mamsa shonita astini, where the tissue components are not properly developed or they are not proportionate. So muscle tissue is well developed, but simultaneously the lymphatic tissue is inadequate. The person may appear chubby, he appears to be hefty and healthy, but still his capacity to tolerate physical stress or exercise is very poor. So that is what it means by animishta mamsa shonita astini. Our skeletal frame and the musculature, whatever covers the skeletal frame, that has to be appropriate. Durbalani, physically weak, asatmya ahara upachitani, if at all the person indulges in non-homogeneous or non-homologous food substances, what is not suitable to him, he gets accustomed with that. He is consuming those for a very long time. Alpa aharani, very less quantity of food is being consumed by the individual. And what do we mean by less quantity of food? The text or the science does not advocate very less quantity of food. As I already told in the previous discussion, that too much of food consumption is not advisable. Similarly, very less quantity of food also is not advisable. The food that we consume has to be appropriate in order to satisfy our hunger and also nourish the tissues. So there are certain terminologies described like alpashana. Alpashana is less in quantity. Less in quantity means if at all I am satisfied after eating 3 chapatis, I should stop at 2. That is alpashana. Then there is one more term called pramita ashana, prakarshena mitam ashanam, too much less. So instead of 3, I cut down to 1. That is not desirable. Every time I will keep on craving for food. So neither my body is active nor my mind is satisfied or happy. Now here alpaharani is that particular state where I am consuming too less of food with which my body cannot sustain. Of course, researches are done in Japan in relation to the quantity of food consumed and the longevity status. It was confirmed that when the rats were fed with half the quantity of food, they lived longer than the normal controls. Then alpasattvani. Here alpasattva is a very poor mind. So for persons who have a confused mind, always disturbed mind, now in these conditions, na bhavanti vyadi sahani. So either too obese, too lean, disproportionate body structures or configuration and tissues, physically weak, indulging in unwanted food substances, not consuming adequate food, not having a balanced mind. In all these conditions, your immunity tends to be very poor. Your body cannot combat diseases. Viparitani punaha vyadi sahani. Opposite to that, you are not obese, not lean, but you are okay. And your mind is balanced. You are consuming good food. Your all body tissue components are properly balanced. Physically, you are active. Now, in all these conditions, you have a good tolerance to diseases or you are having a good level of immunity. Yebhyaschaiva apatyahara dosha sharira visheshebhyo vyadayo mradavo daruna kshipra samuttana chirakarinascha bhavanti. And this is the factor or these are the factors that will decide why a person will fall ill and that too the disease is mild or easily curable, the disease is grievous, curable with difficulty, the disease develops instantaneously and becomes very severe, or the disease runs a chronic course. So we do find in certain individuals, Shita, ನನಗೆ ಶೀತ ಆಗಿದೆ, ದೇ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕೋಲ್ಡ್. ಯಾವಾಗದಿಂದ ಶೀತ ಉಂಟು? ಒಂದು ತಿಂಗಳಾಯ್ತು ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರೆ. ನಾವು ಕೋಲ್ಡ್ ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ರನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅ ಮಂತ್ಸ್ ಟೈಮ್. ವೈರಲ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್, it will be there for 5 to 7 days, like on the lighter side we say, ನಿಮಗೆ ಫ್ಲೂ ಜ್ವರ, ವೈರಲ್ ಜ್ವರ ಬಂದಿದೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಔಷಧಿ ಮಾಡದೇ ಇದ್ರೆ 7 ದಿನ ಬೇಕು, ಔಷಧಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದೇ ವಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಗುಣ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. Now what catches our attention is 1 day and 7, but then ultimately both are one and the same. It's a self-limiting disease what we are trying to manage or treat. But why we should treat then? If at all, if we give medicine, it is going to cure in 1 week, and if you don't, then it is going to take 7 days. The reason is we don't want other residual symptoms, and today viral diseases are the notorious among all conditions. The virus, it's a self-limiting condition, but it makes a lot of disturbance in your body mechanisms. An individual after a viral disease, this is found true today, an individual who has a viral condition, if he indulges in anything and everything during this, does not take adequate precautions, food precautions are not taken. Usually the dietary recommendation given in conditions of such fevers is anything that is light, suitable to the body, don't indulge in oily food and sweets, avoid non-vegetarian or anything that is heavy for digestion, don't exert yourself, no physical activity, no exercise, no walking around, at least take rest for 3 days. Today, strong dose kodi doctor, naale duty ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಉಂಟು, ನಾಳೆ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಇದೆ, ನಾಳೆ ಒಂದು ಟ್ರಾವೆಲಿಂಗ್ ಉಂಟು, you want the disease to stop immediately, and at what cost? You are sacrificing your inner health for the sake of this particular job or whatever it is, which is not advisable. People suffer, and it is observed, a simple viral fever, maybe 2 to 3 days after that, individuals about 40 to 45 years of age, there will be a slight elevation in the LFT profile, a disturbance in the liver function test. Some individuals even develop a sort of a post-viral pancreatitis, and there is a high tendency, if during this particular viral diseases you take IV fluids without appropriate medicines. There are a lot of individuals who take strong medicines. In viral diseases, you are not supposed to administer or take antibiotics. They don't help, rather they can even damage. And what is the logic today? The logic is that we are giving you antibiotic, though it is not helpful, we are giving you antibiotic because with the viral disease your immunity will go low. So we are giving you antibiotic so that you don't have any other secondary infections. But what it is going to make? It is going to make your immunity further, it is going to take it further lower, or it can even cause certain of these antigen antibody mediated reactions. You are not going to follow any regimen. If I say you don't exercise, you don't travel, you don't listen to that. So ultimately what will happen? Your system will suffer a lot. So now those precautions, whatever needs to be taken, they have to be appropriately taken here, rather than intake of medicines. So here, apatya ahara dosha sharira visheshebhyo vyadayah. So apatya is nothing but that inconducive food during the time of illness or otherwise. So that will decide whether this disease will run a chronic course or not. ಶೀತ ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನಿಗೆ ಹೋದೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಐಸ್ ಕ್ರೀಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು, ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. Diabetic patients, very shy of revealing that they have diabetes. What do? Went to a function and he was pouring some payasam. He says he did not want to eat, but he did not want to leave anything on the leaf or the plate, whatever. So he had that payasam. ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬಡಿಸಿ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಪೂರ ಸೌಟ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಬಿಟ್ರು ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರೆ, ತಿನ್ಬೇಕಾಯ್ತು. And that is why I have my blood sugar levels high. Now who is suffering? The person who served is not suffering. The doctor is only getting benefited, but in the interest of the patient is the one who is suffering. So apatya ahara, be careful whenever you are indulging in such food. That can make the disease more severe, that can make the disease take a chronic course, chirakari. It can become long standing. The sneezing or cold, whatever had to cure within 5 to 7 days, now he is taking 21 days or even more than that. So when you consume food which is according to your body, Ishta Varna Gandha Rasa Sparsham, the food that you have consumed, it should be appropriate and desirable. So many a times it happens, I say that you have to consume this food, but what if the patient does not like? This we observe especially in children. Those who can understand, those who are mature enough to understand what is meant by consumption of a pathya ahara or a homogeneous food, now they may like that, but if the person does not like, the moment the food goes into the mouth, the person will vomit out everything. So therefore also, the texts describe that food has to be served, even though you are speaking of so much of pathya ahara or conducive food, give it in a manner in which the person can tolerate it. He has to like it. So, Ishta Varna Gandha Rasa Sparsham Vidhi Vihitam Annapanam. Now, what is this Vidhi Vihita Annapana? There is something described as Dwadasha Ashana Pravichara, 12 dietetic rules. So, I will not elaborate each one of them. So, it is told Ushnashi Syat, Snigdashi Syat, Matrashi Syat. So, Ushnashi means freshly cooked food has to be consumed, not the one that is preserved. Deeply refrigerated, you take out and then you heat it in an oven and then you consume. It should not be on a regular basis. Once a while is fine, but not on a regular basis. Especially if you are ill, try to avoid this at all cost. Snigdashi Syat. So, even when you consume murmure, charmuri, mandaki, you have to add adequate oil to it. Otherwise, it is not advisable for Vata Prakriti individuals, for those having joint pains, for those who have constipation. You have to have it with some amount of oil added. Similarly, when you eat rice, when you eat some other food substances also, when you eat other food substances also, there has to be some amount of this snigdha amsha or sneha amsha we say. Some oiliness definitely has to be there. That is what helps an easy digestion. So we have a custom of adding ghee. Whenever rice is served, on the hot rice, ghee is also served. That helps digestion and promotes enzymes to be released from the liver as well as the pancreas. So all this is something related with that Vidhi Vihitam Annapanam, and it is told Ishta Sarvopakaranavantah Ishta Deshe Atmanam Abhisamikshya. Considering yourself whether this food will suit me, then only you eat it. If you think that it is not suitable to you, consume it in very less quantity. Then how do we consume today? It is told Madhurashi. Initially when you start eating, your initial or the morsel of food, ಮೊದಲ ತುತ್ತು ಏನು ತಿಂತೀರಿ ಅದು predominantly ಅದು ಬಹುಶಃ ಮಧುರವಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. Consume sweets in the beginning, not at the end. Today all functions, sweet is served at the end, paisam, then at the end comes ice cream. Eat, gulp down everything. This is like a junk pot. So what tastes good here, we are not bothered about this. So what happens at the end? Now this is all, there is also one more study done on that. So there is a word that comes, sludge, S-L-U-D-G-E. So when you consume cold beverages or cold substances, ice cream or anything, chilled lassi or whatever at the end of the digestion, end of digestion should always be with either bitter or pungent substances, katu or tikta it says. And it should be ushna if possible. Some hot water or warm water is ideal, but definitely not cold. When you consume cold at the end of the food, what happens is, whatever the fat content is there in the food, that forms a sludge, it coats the food particles, prevents it being broken down by the HCl, only fragmentation may happen, and that forms larger particles. Those larger particles are akin to gluten. So whatever you see with the gluten diet, gluten predominant diet, all these complications will happen. If you see the list of gluten diet produced diseases, you will be surprised to see that most of them are autoimmune mediated. Similar problem comes with this consumption of cold substances after the food. Once or twice it may not happen, but in the long run definitely it is going to cause a problem. So vidhi vihitam annapanam praninam prani samnyakanam pranam achakshate kushalaha. So for living beings, praninam prani samnyakanam. Why double prani? Manushanu prani alva. He is a social animal. Adre vivechana shakti ullavanu. He has a discriminating ability. Use your discriminating ability and don't remain a prani. Don't just be an animal while you eat. Pranam achakshate. So for this prani, the food that is properly consumed, that itself is prana. It is the life. It sustains life, prevents diseases. Pratyaksha phala darshanat. And what is the rationale for all this? It has been proven over time. Tad indhana hi antaragnehe sthitihi tat sattvam urjayati. What are the benefits it does? It elates your mood. Sharira dhatu vyuha bala varnendriya prasadakaram yathoktam upasevyamanam. When you consume healthy food in an appropriate way, it nourishes the body components appropriately. Not that only one component is getting enhanced in the body. A proportionate body development happens. That is what is highlighted in another description as samamamsa pramanastu sama samhanano naraha dradendriyo vikaranam na balena abhibhuyate. So even if you fall ill, your physical strength is such that you will be able to tolerate the disease well and you will get cured very well and completely. That is only when all your tissue components are proportionately developed. And for proportionate development, you have to follow all these dietary rules. So I was speaking something about ekanta hita, ekanta ahita, anekanta hita, anekanta hita. Just a small example here. Hitahara upayoga eka eva purusha vraddhikaro bhavati, ahitahara upayoga punar vyadi nimittamiti. Inconducive or non-conducive food, cause of disease. Conducive food, a cause of health. Hitam akhyatanam ahara jatanam ahita samakyatanam cha matra kala kriya bhumi deha dosha purusha avasthantareshu viparita karitvam upalabhamaha iti. So in spite of telling that something is good and something is not good, there are other factors which influence that. Just don't get carried that this is good and this is bad, so whatever is bad totally avoid. No. If suppose you don't have a chance at all, then what you should be doing? Once a while, omme yavagadru aprupake, it is good to indulge in ahita also. Why? Body should get tolerated. There is one rule in the naturopathy or naturopathy principles. Now your body immunity is not good right from the time when you were born. There is something what is called as acquired immunity. Innate immunity comes by birth. Acquired immunity, it comes by the time you develop, your body grows and you suffer from various diseases. The body learns to come over these infections. You have to train the body for that also. So having said that, avoid all bad things, not that absolutely you should be avoiding. Once a while you can indulge in that, so that body can get accustomed, not for continuous consumption, but your immunity has to improve. So there are other factors, matra, quantity. It is not good, ahita, consume it in moderation, very less quantity. ಫಂಕ್ಷನಿಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಚಾಟು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಚಾಟಿಂದಲೇ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ತುಂಬಿಸಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ, there are people who crowd at the chaat counters rather than going for roti and rice. No, chaat is only for tasting, you are stimulating your taste buds. If you consume that too much, once a while alcohol is good. Now those who are non-alcoholic, please don't go and start telling Dr. Shadai came from Udupi. And alcohol is said to be good for those who work heavily, physical laborers. It is good for those who consume non-vegetarian food. It is good for those who consume fat predominant food. It stimulates digestion. But then how much? You should know what is moderate for you. Now there is hardly a difference, very narrow gap between a habit and an addiction. You never know when alcohol will start drinking you. Initially you are drinking alcohol, you will not know when it is actually drinking you. So we have to be careful. So matra, quantity, then kala, time factor. So I told, if at all it is summer season, no alcohol. Winter season you can have alcohol. Rainy season in moderation again. Kriya, your body activities, the state or otherwise of the disease. Bhumi, the area where you are. Suppose you are in some continental area, very cold, temperate zones. You can have alcohol there. In tropical areas, no alcohol. Then your body in specific, deha, dosha, again it says, pitta prakriti individual, pitta prakopa kala, no madhya, no alcoholic beverages. Kapha and vata, they tolerate alcohol to a very significant extent. Now, ability of the body to tolerate also will vary. So, now all these aspects also have to be considered when you speak about hita and ahita. So, patyasya apatyatvam tata apatyasya patyatvam. Whatever was good can become bad, or whatever was bad, that can also become good to the body, depending upon all these factors. So what is important here is your ability to discriminate and to decide how much to consume, when to consume. One example is given. That is also a concept of what is known as a balanced diet in Ayurveda. So how much of carbohydrates, how much of proteins, how much of fats have to be consumed. That is the modern aspect of diet and nutrition. But how much has to be consumed is not very clearly elaborated. Rather, what all components should be there is elaborated. So it is told, Shashtikan Shali Mudganscha Saindavamalake Yavan Antariksham Payaha Sarpihi Jangalam Maducha Abhyaset. Abhyaset is indulge regularly. In Shashtika Shali, Shashtik Shali is a rice that gets harvested in 60 days. Shashtika in 60. That is considered to be very light for digestion and good for digestion. But then specifically it says that for kapha prakriti okay, but it needs more of water for harvesting. So it is grown especially more in Kerala, and during the good rains it is grown. After that, no, its quality will decrease. But then you are not supposed to consume it the same year. So it is told Purana Shali Shashtikan. It should be an old one, kept at least for more than 6 months before you start using it for consumption. So what it causes here, tatra pathya rakta shalyadayo ati matra hina matra va matra doshad apatya bhavanti. You consume in excess, that is also not good. It can be one reason for prameha, diabetes and other conditions. You consume it in less quantity and claim that it is good. No, you have to consume it again in moderation. Kalavashat. Now kalavashat again in the sense, as I already told you, freshly harvested rice, freshly harvested dicotyledons, dhanyagalu, we have to store it for some time before we start using. Otherwise, it does not cook easily, or it gets completely dissolved when you cook. So, lagutvad balavad agninam hemante na hita. Cold season again, that's the time where kapha is getting aggravated. So if at all it is freshly harvested and you try to consume it during this cold season of kapha kala, it is certainly not conducive. So when you should be consuming, after it is slightly old, after 6 months. Grishma, summer season and all is very ideal for its consumption because it has grown in water. It has been grown with ample water and therefore it is good for pitta, and especially during you need more of hydration. So kala shabdena cha iha nityaga eva kalo grahyate. Nityaga kala is again that influence of regular use or customary use of it as a staple diet as well. Avastikasya purusha avastha shabdena grahitatvat. Avastika is the state of the body, health and disease. So if at all person is suffering from kaphaja diseases, don't use Raktashali. If at all, use in less quantity and not for kapha diseases again. You can use it little for pitta. If it is vata, then you can use it in abundance. Kriyatu samskaranam. It is the processing, how you are going to use. Tena cha Raktashali. Raktashalihi asamyak svinna aprasrutattvadina odana doshena ahito bhavati. So here adhauta aprasruta or asvinna aprasruta. Normally how do we cook? Today we cook it in cookers. But open method of cooking is very healthy. A debatable question, it can go on with various proof for hours together. So I will not go deeper into that particular aspect. So asamyak svinna. Svinna is again properly getting cooked in water. Prasruta is the process of decanting, where the cooked water, whatever, that supernatant water has to be removed. So rice, if you want, has to be cooked with adequate water. Now normally when we do it in cooker 1:3 or so, but open method 1:4 or 5 at times, even people add 6 parts of water. The excess water has to be decanted, and then if you have cattle, it is just the feed for the cattle. So now that way it is ideal to be consumed. Open cooking method, ample of water added, and the water has to be decanted after cooking. Odana doshena ahito bhavati. Now if you don't follow this rule, then it is going to cause a problem. Tata sa eva bhumi sambandhad anupadeshajaha san apatyo bhavati. If at all, now again based on the geographical characters of the place, if at all it is an arid desert, like we say Jangala Desha. If at all it is a marshy area, we say that it is Anupadesha. So for people of Anupadesha, this Raktashali is not ideal. So from the area where we procure this Raktashali from Kerala, there the people do not use at all. They only sell it. And the area is mostly waterlogged there. There it grows, but it is not suitable for them. But it is ideally suitable for people who live in arid areas. There it is ideal because their body needs so much of that hydration based on this particular rice that is grown. Tatha deha apekshaya medasvino raktashalir lagutaya na hito bhavati. So again, according to the body constitution also, those who are obese, having more of fat in the body, dyslipidemic condition, obese, it is not suitable. Taduktam guru cha atarpanam cheshtam stulanam karshanam tati, that I will skip. Tata sa eva doshe vayav ahitaha dosha shabdena vyadirapi grahitavyah. So again, there is a method. If at all you wanted to give for obese individuals, then ideally obese individual again suffering from malabsorption, you can go with Raktashali, but then you have to fry it. Brashta. Brashta means frying the rice before you add water and cooking. So if you have prepared shira, you know the rava is roasted before adding boiling water into it. So a similar method has to be followed when you are cooking Raktashali for an obese individual or a person with dyslipidemia. So tatha purushasya balyavastayam shleshma pradhanayam tiktadipatyam tat tu vardhakye vruddhavate na patyam. Bitter may be good for an child where it is in the growing phase and kapha dominant condition, but for an elderly individual, don't give tikta rasa, bitter predominant substances. Bitter predominant substances can induce a stroke also. So that's told in the text. So when we administer bitter principles in the term of medicine, that is why I highlighted previously, bitter principles in medicine, especially in degenerative conditions, is given with the base of either milk or with ghee. We don't give it as it is. So these are some of the aspects that highlight that again, though we say that it is conducive or non-conducive, there are other factors that are to be consumed. So only With the example of Raktashali, you have examples to describe the suitability or non-suitability to various conditions. Now, Pathya and Apatya, the same terminology even in Kannada. Doctor, Pathya yen madbeku. The patient takes the medicine and before he pays and then he stands on his place or he has gone till the door, then he comes, Doctor, Pathya hellilla. An Ayurvedic doctor who does not say Pathya is a waste. Pathya hellebeku patient, otherwise patient is not happy. This he does not expect from a counterpart of MBBS doctor. But an Ayurvedic doctor has to tell him some do's and don'ts, especially with the diet. So Pathyam Patho Anapetam. What is this Pathya? Which is conducive to the body. Conducive in what sense? Patho Anapetam. Patha is the various channels of transport or circulation. So anything which does not disturb the process of nutrition or the movement of doshas, that is Pathya, or which favors the cure of the disease, that is Pathya. Yacha apriyam apatyam, and it is also manasaha priyam. As I already told you, if the patient cannot tolerate bitter and you are bound on giving him bitter, he will vomit. So how you can give bitter then? Those who have tried giving bitter medicines to children, and you hold one chocolate or a piece of jaggery or a sugar candy and the child is also happy. Kai maddu kududru one chocolate kotru. So yacha apriyam apathyam. If the person does not like, even though it is good to the body, it is not a pathya because some other symptom will manifest because of it. So learn how to make it conducive to the patient. Now in this context, there is a textbook by name Vaidya Jeevana, written by Lolimba Raja, the poet of Akbar the Great. So he describes in his text, Pathye sati gadartasya kim aushada nishevane, Pathye asati gadartasya kim aushada nishevane. Now if you look the original Sanskrit verse, the only difference is Pathye, after the word Pathye, one S mark will come. So if you don't follow Pathya, what is the need of medicine? Disease is not going to get cured. And if you are following Pathya, then what is the need of medicine? The person will remain healthy, he does not need medicine at all. So following an appropriate diet in all circumstances is the most important thing that is needed. Now in the same context, Ahara is told as a prana. Yesham eva hi bhavanam sampat sanjanayen naram. Whatever causes good qualities or it brings about good in the body, the same, tesham eva vipad, when it is faulty, vyadhin vividan samudirayet. So there is a very narrow demarcation between what is good and bad or how much is good and bad. So the same, whatever is good, if it crosses a limit, it is bad. Now having said about a proper or a delicate balance between good and bad, what is this quantity? How can you decide what is good? So when this matra, I told matra shi syat, consume in moderation or in a proper quantity. So how to decide this quantity? It is individualized. So whatever you can consume and you can digest within an appropriate time. So everywhere this word appropriate comes and we only are left to reason and think over. So self-assessment is most important in all these circumstances. So that is why I said individualized or personalized approach. With the physician and patient equal participation, we cannot come at a common consensus in these regards. So, tatra matravatvam purvamuddishtam kukshi amsha vibhagena. So, there is something called as Trivida Kukshiya Vimana. One chapter is entirely dedicated to this quantity of food to be consumed. It says, divide your capacity into three parts. One part with solid food, one part with liquid food, and another part you leave empty for the substances to properly act. Now, whenever you are running a mixie, you don't run a dry jar. Do you add just 1/4 or 1/3 quantity and run the mixie? No, at least half we will definitely put in that. Do you put anything like more than 3/4 in the mixie? Washing machine 8 kgs loading capacity. Will you show it? Keep on showing. After water gets added, it will be overloaded. It may show some E4 or E3, I don't know. So, similarly, your mixie inside your stomach, you have to divide it into three parts. or another book says divide it into 4 parts. 2 parts or half to be filled with solid food, 1/4 with liquid, and another 1/4 to be left empty for proper functioning. If you divide into 3 parts, 1/3 for solid food, 1/3 for liquid food, and 1/3 for empty, proper action to occur. If this does not, you don't follow this rule, then definitely you will suffer from indigestion. So what are the symptoms to know that you have consumed in appropriation? Kukshehe aprapidanam aharena. Kuksh is the upper stomach, epigastrium. You don't feel any discomfort or a sense of heaviness or an oppression here. Many a times, ಮೂಗುವರೆಗೆ ತಿಂದೆ, ಕುತ್ತಿಗೆವರೆಗೆ ತಿಂದೆ, ಆಕಂಠ ಭೋಜನ, ಆಕಂಠ ಪಾನ and all, we must have heard the term. So, kantha paryantam, we cannot eat till here, but it means that even if you tickle the person and he smiles, laughs, coughs, sneezes, all food contents will come up. They are ready, eagerly waiting to come out. You only need to give a stimulation. So, no discomfort in the epigastrium. Hradayasya anavarodaha. No discomfort in the precordium also. Sometimes you eat so much that you cannot even take deep breath. You are breathing only shallow and rapid. Parshvayoho avipatanam. No discomfort in the lateral part. That is where you have the maximum respiratory movements also. Anati gauravam udarasya. Abdomen is not very heavy. The word used is anati gauravam. Not ati gauravam. Anati gauravam. Little heaviness is there, but not too much. Prinanam indriyanam. You are satisfied. All your sense faculties satisfied. Sihi tinbekittu, ನೀವು ಸಿಹಿ ತಿಂದ್ರಿ, ನಾಲಿಗೆ ಚಟ ಹೋಯಿತು. Kshut pipasa uparamaha. Your thirst and hunger are quenched or you are satisfied. Sthana, asana, shayana, gamana, uchvasa, prachvasa, hasya, sankatasu, sukhanuvrattihi. After you have had the food, if you are sitting, if you are lying down, if you are walking, if you are breathing, if you are laughing, if you are talking, in all these conditions, you should be comfortable. You don't want to talk at all. You have taken till here. You are feeling uneasy. No, that should not be the quantity. Sayam pratascha sukhena parinamanam. The food that you have consumed in the morning should get digested by evening. What you have consumed in the evening should get digested in the morning. Now, the question is, then what about the afternoon food? The olden days, the food, there was only 2 ahara kala, 2 predominant time for the food to be consumed. Usually it was consumed morning, there was nothing like a breakfast. It was a major food that was consumed somewhere at 10:30 or 11, and then evening by 5 or so, 5 to 6 or max 7, done. In between, whatever small munching possibly was there, but major food was only 2. So, dvi ahara kalaha. And it was specified also, according to this, I told you, Vaidya Jivana by Lolimba Raja. So, it was specified even in Subhashita. Yama madhye na bhoktavyam, yama yugmam na langniyat, yama madhye rasotpattihi, yama yugmam balakshayaha. 1 yama means 3 hours. The entire 24-hour cycle is divided into 8 yama. So, yama yugme, 2 hours, 2 yama or 6 hours. Don't space your food beyond 6 hours. Don't eat in between these 6 hours also. In between the 6 hours, you have this process of digestion, nutrient assimilation going on. You eat again and again. That is called adhyashana. Bhuktasya upari bhojanam. Now the digestive juices are also confused. Somebody is throwing, you are having a net practice, maybe cricket or whatever it is. 1 ball is being thrown and you are catching. So 1 ball is initially thrown and you see another ball coming. Now you don't know which one to catch. If you are quick enough, you may catch both of them. But simultaneously 4 or 5 ball thrown again is creating a confusion. So our body is now confused what to do. Secrete HCl or secrete pepsinogen or reninogen, whatever it is. Which juice to be secreted. Totally confused. So stick to your time of consumption. Balavarna upachaya karatvam. So the food that you have properly consumed, that should be sufficient enough to nourish all your body components. Iti matravato lakshanam aharasya bhavati. So these are the qualities of food that is consumed in appropriation, in appropriate quantity. So one simple quote is also told. यावदस्य अशितम अशनम सम्यक अनुपहत्य जराम गच्छति तावदस्य मात्रा प्रमाणम वेदितव्यम भवति. This we apply for every individual. You consume and within 2 hours you don't feel any heaviness at all, you can consider that the food is digested. So if you are eating 3 chapatis and you feel too much of heaviness, reduce it to 2. If after eating 2 you feel that within 1 hour you are feeling hungry, then increase it to 2.5. Now this is an individualized approach. It is a trial and error, not that you can just jump to conclusion, tell that 2, 3, no, nothing like that. You have to decide how much you should be consuming. Again, there is a concept of sarvagraha and parigraha, fractionation and meal entirety. How much of quantity to be consumed and how much of individual components should be there. How much of rice, how much of dal, how much of sabji. That is all under this concept of parigraha. So I was telling about this concept of a balanced food, all the components that are required are all, and also an scientific article was published on that in terms of its nutritional composition, and it was found that it matches very well with the concepts of nutrition, diet and nutrition that is followed, currently practiced. Now whatever is digested, your appetite, now there is a beautiful concept here in terms of the 3 similes given here. Sa shabdarchi jala santanama danuna visheshena anudhavatyevam kevalam shariram or shariram kevalam. So the food whatever is consumed and digested, it then circulates in the body in the form of shabda, archi or agni and jala. Shabda has got a tiriyak gati or a horizontal movement, agni has got a urdhva gati or an upward movement, and jala has got a downward movement or a adogati. Now this is one of the interpretations. So whatever nourishment is carried, it is carried horizontally, upward, downward, in all the directions the tissues get nourished. One more interpretation here is the speed of nourishment. So if you are telling Shabda Gati, it is considered due to Shabda Santanavat Tikshnaagninam Rasaha Sancharati. The fastest mode of nourishment is Shabda Gati. Agni is in moderation and Jala is the lowest form of the movement. Now this also has got to do something with the component of food that you have to eat. Many a times children struggling to eat, they have already taken in their tat. So on the plate they have taken ತುಂಬಾ ಇಷ್ಟವಾದ ಆಹಾರ ಹಾಕಿಕೊಂಡು ಇನ್ನು ತಿನ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಅನ್ನ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದದ್ದು ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಹಿರಿಯರ ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಉಪ್ಪಿನಕಾಯಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಈಗ ಉಪ್ಪಿನಕಾಯಿ ನೆಕ್ಕಿ ನೀನು ತಿನ್ನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ಲು ಹೇಗೆ ಖಾಲಿ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಪೈಸಿ will again rekindle your appetite to complete your whatever is left over in the plate. But if you eat something sweet in between, no, gone. Now that stimulates the agni further. So some of these traditional practices also match with all these descriptions. Accordingly, you can hasten the process of nutrition by stimulating appropriately whichever component you have got to do. We especially use these particular concepts when we are handling patients of malabsorption syndrome. We call it as Grahani Roga. Okay, one component here that is highlighted the most. Now, we will finish off the concept related with the food. There is one more concept related here with the mental aspect also. We will be detailing that later on. Dhriti smriti vibramshah sampraptihi kalakarmanam asatmya arthagamascheti jnatavya dukkha hetavah. So in relation to the disease concepts, so Dhi, Dhriti and Smriti are said to be the 3 functional aspects related to the mind. The discriminating power, the decisive power and also the memory. So you should be able to discriminate what is good and what is bad for you, and once you are able to discriminate, then you should decide and log on only to what is good to you. That is Dhriti, willpower. And you should also have your smriti or memory in accordance with the past events. In the past, I ate this particular food and I could not tolerate. I had loose stools. So now if that food is there, avoid. Don't fall a prey to your greed or nalage ruchi laulyad. So then apart from that, you follow all dietetic rules. But still, sampraptihi kala karmanam. The kalaya tasmai namaha. So you bow to the Kal Bhagwan. So even when Rama finished all his avatar, the Kala had come to meet him. Similarly with Krishna also, they came and warned, your work, your duty here on the Bhuloka is over and you have to come back now to your abode. So Kalaya Tasmai Namaha, with due respect to Kala, I am also time bound now. So understand the concept of time also, adequate time. There is something called as Ahara Parinamakara Bhava. 6 factors are described. So under that one Kala is told, which says Kalaha Paryaptim Abhinirvartayati. Paryapti means sufficiency. So if you take a fatty diet, fat predominant diet, you need a longer time to digest. So morning if you have too much of a fat containing food or sweet or heavy food, then afternoon you can slightly delay your lunch. Morning you had a very light food, very easily digestible, something of an idli and all, just 2 you had, then maybe you can have your lunch at 12 itself. So that time factor also is very important here. Then asatmi arthagamas cheti, your indriya and its arthas. So sense organ and their respective objects, artha. Now that also, depending upon your indulgence over or under or faulty, you can cause or be a prey for various diseases. So, na cha atimatram eva annam amadoshaya kevalam. This is what I highlighted previously. Not only excess of food, but dvishta, vishtambi, dagda, ama, guru, ruksha, hima, ashuchi. Dvishta, what is not desirable or what you did not like. You are not liking and then continuously out of disgust you are consuming that food. It is not good. You will not be able to digest and maintain your health. Vishtambi, whatever gets digested a bit late. Vishtambi is what takes extra time for digestion. Dagda, charred, tala hiddaddu, burnt. Ama, improperly cooked or uncooked. Guru, very heavy for digestion. Ruksha, you are just gulping down. There are people who make a bolus out of rice and then just gulp. That's a tradition in certain places. But we are habituated to adding lot of rasam and sambar in that and we don't have it dry. Now ruksha is again without adequately moistening the food. Hima, cold substances, already I highlighted. Ashuchi, unclean conditions. Vidahi, that produces burning, too much of spicy substances, all comes under Vidahi. Shushkam, Atyambu Plutam, now you have to add rasam and all, but rasam is just flowing on your plate. No, that is also not ideal. Cha annam na jiryati. Na jiryati is na samyak jiryati. It may get digested, but there can be some problem. Upataptena bhuktam cha shoka krodha kshudadibihi. Now all these on one place. You followed all these rules, but you are mentally afflicted with grief or anger or hatred, whatever it is. So it is told, Chinta Shoka Bhaya Krodha Lubdainya Nipiditena Pradvesha Yuktena cha Sevyamanam Annam Na Samyak Paripakameti. The food will not get digested, though it is conducive and you have consumed in an appropriate quantity. So give importance to the state of mind when you consume the food also. One more concept is related with Vega, Udirana and Dharana. Very important again. So there are some urges, 13 urges which you should not control. One of them is sleep also, Nidra. So it is told Vega na dharayet, don't suppress. Vata, flatus, vit, stools, mutra, urine, kshavatu, sneezing, thirst, kshuda, hunger. So don't suppress. When you feel hunger, eat. When you feel thirsty, drink. Nidra, sleep. So once a teacher, there on the lighter side, there was a joke in some of the magazines also. The teacher woke up a student who was asleep in the class. Not simply asleep, fast asleep and snoring. Then when he was woken up, ಎದ್ದಾಗ ಕೇಳಿದಂತೆ ಅವನು ಪಾಠವು ಇದ್ರದ್ದೇ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ವೇಗಾನ್ನ ಧಾರೈಡ್, ಅದು 7th ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್, ಅದು ಅಷ್ಟಾಂಗ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ ಇದ್ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಯೂಶುವಲಿ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಅಪ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ವೀಕ್. ಮೊದಲನೇ ವಾರದಲ್ಲೇ ಈ ಪಾಠ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಅವನು ಎಬ್ಬಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೊತ್ತಾದ ನಂತರ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ಲೋಕ ನೋಡಿದ, ಕೇಳಿದ, ಸರ್ ನಿದ್ರಾ, ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಎಬ್ಬಿಸಿದ್ರಿ ಅಂತ. ನಿದ್ರಾ ವೇಗ ಧಾರಣೆ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಲಗಿದ್ದು ನಾನು, ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಎಬ್ಬಿಸಿದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಅಪರಾಧ ಈಗ ಗುರುಗಳದ್ದು. ಕಾಸ, ಕಾಫ್. Similarly here, kshavatu also is kshavatrat, yes, kshava is sneezing. Why sneezing comes? It is a reflex action when you have some irritation, some dust in the nose. ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ ಆಗೋದು ಬೇಡ. ಕೆಮ್ಮು, ಗಂಟ್ಲು ಕೆರೆತಾ ಉಂಟು, ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಕೆಮ್ಮುದು ಬೇಡ. ಅದು ಏನು ಪರ್ಪಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಉಂಟಾ ಅದನ್ನೇ ನೀವು ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫೈ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸ್ನೀಸಿಂಗ್, ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಸೀನಿದಾಗ ಮೂಗಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಇರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಉಂಟಾ, ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಉಂಟಾ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಸ್ನೀಸಿಂಗ್ ಅದು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದಲೇ ಬಂದದ್ದು. ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಇರಿಟೇಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಥ್ರೋಟ್ ಮೋರ್, ಸೈಲೆನ್ಸರ್ ಹಾಕಿದಾಗೆ. ನಾವು ಆಲ್ ದೋಸ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಡಿಸೈರ್ಡ್. ಜೃಂಬ, ಐ ನೋ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಹೂ make the student stand up even in professional colleges when they yawn with open mouth. Of course they can keep one hand. Then ashru, you feel like crying once a while is always good. Lot of good benefits of crying are there. Just like there is a laughing therapy, I recommend crying therapy also. That relaxes the mind much faster than the laughing therapy. Similarly, retasam, lot of individuals we get with this passive congestion and epididymo orchitis related conditions, pain in scrotum and various other even psychological disturbances due to suppressing this urge for indulgence in sex, but appropriate to the age, because again brahmacharya is also recommended. Then you have this dharayettu sada vegan hitaishi pretya chehacha. You have to suppress some urges. What are those? All related with the mental afflictions. You should know how to control them as well. So greed, lust, anger, hate, all these have to be controlled if you want to maintain your health. Okay, and whenever you are in this world, remember that you are just a replica of the external world. So man is an epitome of the universe. That is called Pinda Brahmanda Nyaya. Pinda is the body, Brahmanda is the external world. So whatever is there outside is there in the body, whatever is there inside, there is a reciprocation. So many a times, whenever there is a cyclone effect, you see that there is no breeze, the weather has become a standstill, you also feel as if your mood is gone down. It happens with many. Now, your body responds to the external environment. That is what we speak about homeostasis. So there is a reciprocation. You have to reciprocate with the external environment. A friend is sad, another so-called his friend also will not be in a very cheerful mood. You respond to the surroundings. So that concept also has to be understood. Your activity should not be set. Now if you know this, there is something called as satya buddhi. Satya buddhi is the touch with reality, and that is something related with spirituality also. Adhyatma, we will come to that later. That is called naistika chikitsa. So that's the philosophical truth. Sarvalokam atmanam, atmanam cha sarvaloke, samamanu pashyatah satya buddhihi samupatyate, sarvalokam hi atmani pashyato bhavati atmaiva sukha dukayoho karta na anya iti. So you will hold yourself responsible for whatever good or bad has happened. Many a times children keep complaining. Recently, I was just talking to one of my friends and his little daughter came from school. ನಾನು ಓಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಸೀನಿದ್ಲು, ನಾನು ಬಿದ್ದುಬಿಟ್ಟೆ. ಸೀನಿದ ಕಾರಣ ನಾನು ಬಿದ್ದದ್ದು. And this for a child it is quite fine, but then sometimes when elderly or grown up people also start arguing like that, then it is very bad. So you have to consider yourself responsible for whatever goes wrong or bad. You quarrel with somebody, realize that quarreling, it is told in a lot of places, not going against anybody, but then there are some famous quotes. Don't argue with your boss. It is like quarreling with the pig. Ultimately you know that you are suffered while your boss enjoyed, or the pig really enjoyed playing in that dirt. It is something like that. So consider yourself responsible. On the first hand, you are a subordinate. Remember not to quarrel with somebody who is on a higher side. Badavana sittu davadege moola. All that is there. So there are some other interesting principles. First of them I highlighted Karya Karana Siddhanta, cause and effect. Food, any other regimen that can provocate the doshas leads to diseases. Until and unless it is not corrected, you cannot get a permanent cure. Samanya Vishesha Siddhanta, similarities between the food and the body, that is where Panchamahabhuta principle applies. Swabhavavada, in spite of all this, if you say, I follow Rasayana therapy, I am following geriatrics, I take Ayurveda regularly, but why am I getting old? There was one, when I was small, I was fascinated by this Amar Chitrakatha and Tinkle comics. I don't know how many of you have seen that. So Supandi once went to, Supandi jokes, he went to a hotel, ಒಂದು ಹೋಟೆಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದ ಇಡ್ಲಿ ತಕೊಂಡ ಅಂತೆ, 8 ಇಡ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲೇಟಿಗೆ. ಯಾವ ಕಾಲ ನೀವೇ ಅಂದಾಜು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಈಗ 3-2 ಬಂದ್ಬಹುದು ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲೇಟಿಗೆ. 5ನೇದು ತಿಂದ ನಂತರ ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಅಳ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, 5ನೇ ಇಡ್ಲಿ ತಿನ್ನುವಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ತುಂಬಿತಿ, 5ನೇದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಮೊದಲೇ ತಿಂದದಿದ್ರೆ ಉಳಿದದ್ದು 4 ಉಳಿಸಬಹುದಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ. So your hunger is quenched after you ate, but again after that you are going to feel hungry after the food is digested. This is swabhava, nature. You cannot counter nature. ನನ್ನ ತಲೆ ಕೂದಲೆಲ್ಲ ಉದುರಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನೀಗ ಡಾಕ್ಟ್ರೆ ತಲೆ ಕೂದಲು ಉದುರ್ತದೆ, I was previously wondering, should I wear a topan, should I go for a hair transplant or something, because I used to get lot of patients for hair fall. Initially, before I had grey hair, people just used to look at my hair. I can see from their eyesight that their eyes are pinpointed on my receding hairline, and they asked, Doctor, tale kudlu udurta untu, looking at my forehead, wondering if this doctor can do something for their hair fall. Now after my hair has turned white, my moustache also turned white, I kept it deliberately so that they give me some respect. Whatever happens with, now the gist is only that, whatever happens with age cannot be countered completely. There you have to rely on this swabhavavada. If you expect somebody that at the age of 80, 85 he should remain young like 40, not possible. Kalavada, whatever has to happen in the appropriate time has to happen. So if somebody is destined with an illness or whatever it is, and then you know that it's a terminal illness, no, it's not possible. Yadracha, accident, we get lot of patients. Doctor, nange smoking illa, nange drinks illa, nange yavude ketta abhyasa illa, nange yake ee kaile bandadu. Recently we had a patient of a bronchogenic carcinoma, lung cancer. We have no answer for that. Yadracha, accident. Sometimes we say it is karmavada, something you had to suffer, your previous birth, something was pending, and this birth you are suffering, because our tradition, our customs believes in this punarjanma siddhanta. Niyata or karmavada, that is what I was highlighting. Ishwaravada, if God has destined you to suffer, you will suffer. So one or the other of these principles are used in explaining certain events. So these are all based on Darshana Shastra, logical explanations, where you don't get direct references in the text. You search for these principles. Somewhere you will be able to give some appeasement or some clarification to the patient. So coming to the concepts of treatment aspect, basically we have two broad concepts of treatment. One is Shamana, one is Shodhana. Now, not that this is used only in case of diseases, it is also used in health restoratives also. So Shamana is mainly palliative care and Shodhana is the purificatory treatment, which we concentrate even in the healthy state or maybe even in the diseases when we want a long-term sustenance or a non-recurrence of the disease. So generally whatever we speak about this Panchakarma is not about an oil massage or taking a steam or some other treatment. So in the name of health spa or resorts, those treatments are recommended or are highlighted. But actually Panchakarma refers to 5 important treatment regimens that actually cleanses the body. Something what you can equate with the modern or the contemporary detoxification therapies. So Vamana, Virechana, Basti, Nasya and Rakta Mokshana. Bloodletting is also a practice that is being done. Vamana is emesis therapy that is usually given in Kafaja Rogas. Virechana in Pitta related conditions. So if person is suffering from hyperacidity syndrome, Pitta tumba huli tegu bartade, uri bartade, we go with this Virechana treatment. frequent asthmatic like attacks, sneezing, seen barodu, kemmu barodu, dammu barodu, all that we go with this kafaja vamana karma. Also in skin diseases accordingly we plan. For vata related conditions, sandhivata, pakshavata, all that we go with basti. Nasya is given in usually eye, ear, nose, throat like diseases, also in neurological conditions related with central nervous system. Rakta mokshana, bloodletting we do in a wide variety of conditions. Now this is something what we commonly practice. Day to day life also we employ some. ಹಸಿವಿಲ್ಲ, ಇವತ್ತು ಬೇಡ, ಮನ್ಸಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ತಿನ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಎಂಥದ್ದು ಇಚ್ಛೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಡಿಸೈರ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಫುಡ್, ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ ತಿಂದದ್ದೇ ಏನೋ ಜೀರ್ಣ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಫೀಲ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ನಾಟ್ ಡೈಜೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್, ತತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಪೆ ಲಂಘನಂ ಪಥ್ಯಂ. ಲಂಘನಂ ಈಸ್ fasting, not consuming food, or again consuming light food, anything is possible. Madhye langana pachanam, if the quantity of indigestion and the disease severity is moderate, sometimes you will prefer like taking something in the form of buttermilk added with some asafoetida, hingu, or you may try to eat a hajmola candy for digestion. Some prefer to eat pan. If at all it is excess, then shodhana. Try to eliminate it out so that the disease will tad unmulayed malan. Right from the root the disease has to be expelled out. Go for shodhana. So you just want pacification, go for langana or fasting or appropriate diet in light quantity, or else pachana, in the sense we give some pachana medicines also, some kashayas, tablets, churnas and all that. So ultimately the basic purpose of Ayurveda is maintenance of health in a healthy individual. Swastasya swasthya rakshana. And if a person is ill, aturasya vikara prashamana, cure of the disease, that comes next. So that is why Ayurveda is always a promotive and a preventive medicine rather than a curative medicine. Curate comes next. So general principles of health is described. Nityam hitahara vihara sevi. Indulge in food that is conducive, indulge in diet that is conducive, samikshakari, consider what is good for you and then only indulge. Vishayeshu asaktaha, don't overindulge in materialistic objects. Mobile ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಬೇಕು ಇವತ್ತು, ಅದರಲ್ಲೇ 24 ಗಂಟೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಬರುವ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಸ್ಪಾಂಡಿಲೈಟಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುವಂತದ್ದು ಪೇಷಂಟ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಮೊಬೈಲಲ್ಲಿ ಗಂಟೆ ಗಟ್ಟಲೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವವರು. ನಾವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕೇಳುದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ವಿ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಈಸ್, ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಗಂಟೆ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀರಿ? ಅವರ್ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ಹೂ ಫಿನಿಶ್ ಆಫ್ ದೇರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಗೋ ಹೋಮ್, ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ವೆನ್ ದೇ ಕಮ್ after their vacation or in between, if they are localites, they will be coming with one pain and stiffness in the neck. ಎಂತಾಗಿದೆ ಸರ್? ಕುತ್ತಿಗೆ ನೋವು. ನೋಡೋ, ಕುತ್ತಿಗೆ ಆಡಿಸ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತದ? ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್. ಈಚೆ ತಿರುಗು. Dry neck, torticollis. Why? Lying down on the sofa with the mobile, or then lying down on the sofa looking at the TV 6 hours, 8 hours. Because the son has come from the hostel now. ಓ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಸೊರಗು ಹೋಗಿದೆ, ಅಜ್ಜಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮುಗೀತು. 24 ಗಂಟೆಯೂ ತಿಂಡಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಸೋಫಾದ ಮೇಲೇನೆ ಊಟ ತಿಂಡಿ, ಟಾಯ್ಲೆಟ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಒಂದು ಎದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾ ಅಂತ. Now in that state, it is too much indulgence. The text specifies vishama asana, sitting or lying down in awkward postures. That itself can cause lot of diseases, including indigestion and other conditions. Data samaha, learn to give, not always to take. Something what I don't say money keep on lending. These days money also is important. So how much is required for you? Now knowledge can always be shared. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಜೂಸಿ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬನಿಗೆ ಕೊಡುದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನನಗೆ ಇಟ್ರೇನೆ. ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಕೊಡುದ್ರಿಂದ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬೆಳೀತದೆ. ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎನ್ರಿಚ್ ಮೈ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಬೈ sharing. The more I tell, more doubts you get. I always say it is the students who make the teachers. What I am today is because of my students. Had they not asked me questions, had they not stimulated me to read and come further, I would have been a lazy bum today. I have 25 years of notes accumulated over time. I just have to go and project a PPT and then say blah 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 and then the lessons are done. No, because students ask questions, I am still having a habit of reading. What is new? I have to update. So learn to give, Satyaparaha, again, mental conflict is something that has to be avoided. One lies, you have to tell 100 lies. Tell the truth and then finish. Truth is always harsh, it hurts, but then it's okay. Once you tell, you are tension free. Kshamavan, learn to forgive, even he may be your enemy. And this usually, I think it comes with aging. Aptopasevi, being in a company with the learned ones who can always guide you, something what we can equate with a mentor. Bhavati arogaha, that's the principle to maintain a disease-free state. This again comes from Vagbhata Sashtanga Hridaya. So something what I already highlighted, I will not go into this detail. Now many a times when we manage the disease conditions, I give medicine for a cough or cold for 5 days. The patient takes medicines, his cough subsides in 2 days, he stops all other medicines and keeps it somewhere handy next time to be consumed next time. Is it advocated? No. Antibiotics, the doctor has prescribed for 5 days, but I know my complaints will reduce in 2 days, so I go to the medical shop and I say, 2 dinadu kodi, kammi agadidre matte bartene. Now what did I do? WHO has strictly warned the Drug General of India that antibiotics are rampantly being used and misappropriated. Full course of medicine is not done. Typhoid fever, we take medicine for 7 days. No, 14 days. Chronic bronchitis, 14 days. Antibiotics has to be compulsorily given even though you recover in 5 days. Now, because we don't do that, we are getting multi-drug resistant strains of bacteria. So here also, till when the treatment has to be continued, what are the signs that the person is disease-free or indications for stoppage of treatment? Rugupashamanam, whatever the discomfort is there, that should subside. Swaravarna yoga, restoration of voice and complexion, this will take 15 to 20 days. Sharira upachaya, your metabolism should regain. If you have lost weight, that has to come back. Balavradhi, physical strength, agility has to increase. Abhyavahari abhilasha, desire to take food also should be appropriate. Ruchihi ahara kale, appropriate feeling of hungry at the appropriate time. Abhyavahratasya cha aharasya kale samyak jaranam, already described sayam prata. So within the stipulated time, proper digestion of food has to occur. Nidra labho yata kalam, very important, sleep. At the appropriate time, you should fall asleep. By 10, hit the bed. The moment you go, lie down, yes, you are asleep. Wake up 4, 5, no problem. Vaikarikanam cha swapnanam adarshanam, disturbing, haunting dreams, should not. Sukhena cha pratibodhanam, no snoozing of the alarm. Somebody with the alarm, again your mother, father, brother, wife, children, somebody else is waking up but not you. Nothing to do with that. Sukhena cha pratibodhanam, you should get up fresh in the morning. If it all, even it is an alarm, with the first strike of the alarm, you should get up. Vata mutra purisha retasam muktihi, timely excretory functions. Sarvakaraihi mano buddhindriyanam cha avyapattiriti. All the mental faculty, the sense organs are able to perform their functions well. Now when all these are normal, you can say that the person is now restored to normalcy. It is called as yavat prakratim gamayet bishak. Not the bishak, but then the treatment has to be continued until the rogi attains that particular state of health. Now these are the parameters. So not only disease curing medicines, but restoratives, what we call as a rasayana, also has to be administered to the patient. Something related with the psychological components. Now it is told mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. Yaar helidu? Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna Paramatma. Now the same is highlighted even in Charaka Samhita. I say it is copied from Bhagavad Gita only. Now there it says pradnyaparada, or doing or indulging in an activity with guilt, or which is not true to your conscience, is the root cause for all diseases. So Pradnyaparada itself is the major factor for all diseases. Previously it was highlighted. Dhriti smriti vibrashtaha karma yat kurute ashubham pradnyaparadam tam vidyat sarva vyadhi prakopanam or sarva dosha prakopanam. Root cause is not being true to oneself or to one's conscious. You know the story of Angulimala. The moment somebody could convince him that what he is doing wrong, he didn't give a chance. Others were all trembling and so much frightened, they didn't even open the mouth until he cut off their fingers or even killed them. But the Buddha was so brave enough to face him and to highlight that what he was doing is wrong. Then he realized his mistake. So until and unless one person, it does not prick his conscience, he does not realize what he did is wrong. And that guilt, sense of guilt is a root cause of all diseases. So many a times we have a lot of guilt within ourselves and unknowingly it gets converted into psychosomatic disorders. Acidity, all that is a manifestation of that, disturbed sleep. So mind or manas, according to Ayurveda, is one of the jnanendriya because it helps you to gain knowledge. It also helps you to perform certain functions. It is also a karmendriya or it is called ubhaya indriya. Ekatvam and anutvam, it is minute, it is only one in function. At a given moment of time, mind can concentrate only on one action. Now this is true with many of us. But there are people who can train their mind to indulge in simultaneously many activities. So Ashtavadani and all, lot of questions being bombarded from all, he remembers appropriately which question was asked by whom and answers appropriately. Now that is your mind power, you can harness it to any extent. But in general, for a layman, mind can concentrate only on one activity at a time. That is why sometimes we need to tell to our students, when I am explaining, don't write anything. If you want to write, I will give you, I will dictate, you write later. So trying to concentrate or read from the slides, the OHP, you will tend to lose attention from what I am explaining. Simultaneously, two activities cannot be done. So all that is highlighted with certain nyayas like Dirgha Shashkuli Nyaya, Kedara Kulya Nyaya, Shatapatra Suchi Vyada Nyaya and so on. So when mind can concentrate on a particular thing, that results in acquiring knowledge. So Lakshana Manaso Jnanasya Abhavo Bhava Evacha. Getting knowledge or not getting knowledge is a quality of the mind. If mind can concentrate, mind can associate with the sense organs and the objects, then the knowledge is imparted. Many a times you are just thinking something in your mind and your friend passes in front of you, you don't realize who went past you. ನಾನು ಆವಾಗ ನಿನ್ನ ಮುಂದೆ ನಿಂದೆ ಹೋದೆ, ನೀನು ನೋಡ್ಲಿಲ್ವಾ ನನಗೆ? ಹೌದಾ ಮಾರ, ನನ್ನ ಗಮನಕ್ಕೆ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆಯಿತು. We say so. Sometimes we label the student physically present, mentally absent. ಏನ್ ಪಾಠ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ ನಾನು, ನಿಲ್ಸಿ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, confused. He was thinking of something else. So until and unless mind does not concentrate, you don't have knowledge. Now this is the process of knowledge acquisition as is highlighted. Nothing new here. The mind always has to be indulged or associated with the indriyas or the sense organs. It has to connect and then only the artha prapti or the objects can be perceived. So perception comes only when the mind is associated or concentrating on a particular indriya to grasp its respective object. Now this is something that is highlighted. The process is told indriyena indriyartho hi samanaskena grahyate kalpyate manasatu urdhvam gunato doshato athava. So perception is there and then analysis, pros and cons, or you study the materialistic object from all dimensions. So a stereognostic view of a particular object. You try to comprehend the knowledge in entirety. Reasoning, everything is there, and ultimately you will be having, now with that logic or analysis, you try to have a confirmatory knowledge, what exactly this substance is. in what way I can use it or whatever, whether it is going to be beneficial to me or not. Now, based on that knowledge what you have obtained, your action plan is decided. So, Kaika or Vachika karma actions are decided based on what confirmatory knowledge you get on the basis of this analysis. So, Chintya, Vicharya, Uhya, Dhyeya, Sankalpyameva cha, Yat Kinchit Manaso Dnyayam, Tat Sarvam hi Artha Samnyakam. That is, these 5 are said to be the functions of the mind. So, thinking, reasoning, they are all part of the thought process. Jayate Vishaye Tatra Ya Buddhihi Nischayatmika. Confirmatory knowledge is Nischayatmika Buddhi. Once you attain the Nischayatmika Buddhi, forever it is in your memory. ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಓದ್ತೇನೆ, ನನಗೆ ನೆನಪೇ ಇರುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. This is the common thing that the students come with. And what we say, ಓದಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಲದು, ಕಲಿಬೇಕು. Reading is something different, learning is something different. Learning is a continuous process. That is why abhyasat prapyate drishti karma siddhi prakashini. Just like a person, it is told ratnavat sadasad jnanam. You come to know about whether a gem is precious or not. The qualities of a diamond can be realized only by an expert. He has spent several years in that, attaining that expertise. So, vyavasyati taya vaktum kartum va buddhi purvakam, and after that, with your intellect, that is the nischayatmika buddhi or vimarshatmaka buddhi, dhi we say, discriminating power, you will decide whether to do that activity or indulge in that activity or not. That is what we do when we go to purchase a mobile. What will we ask for? Company, our budget, features, what is given. Yes, we try to analyze everything before we buy. We just don't go and say, 25,000 ಯಾವುದು mobile ಬರ್ತದೆ ಕೊಡಿ. Has anybody purchased a mobile like that? A cell phone? I don't think so. Now, again, acquirement of knowledge, it is said to be multifactorial. So, just like bringing out a musical note from a musical instrument, it involves the play of interplay of lot of factors. Similarly here, finger, thumb, veena, string, nail, floor, the place where it is kept, that also can modify, amplify the resonance, can improve the quality or the pitch of sound. Similarly, your knowledge also. You are reading something from the book, you have some perception. You listened to a lecture, you modified whatever your views. You discussed with your peer, with your friends, with your colleagues, some other extra knowledge you got. You attended a workshop or a symposium on that particular topic, you got the latest advances on that particular topic. You did it practically, you got a ready-hand model on that. Now you will not forget what you have read, and you are ready to explain it to anybody with appropriation. So, that is why Adhyayana, Adhyapana and Tadvidya Sambhasha, these are 3 methods by which you can enhance your knowledge. So, it is very clearly written in the text, if somebody wants to improve their memory power, what to do? Doctors always will advise, we have this Brahmi, we have this Shankapushpi, you eat this, you drink Saraswatarishta. And we had done a market survey. Right from high school students till the professional colleges, lot of people consume Brahmi Vati, Shankapushpi powder and one more liquid medicine called Saraswatarishta. Lot of sales, especially during this February to March, till April. After that, no, the sales is down. It picks up only during that time. So that is why we say, ಆವಾಗ ಅದನ್ನು ಕುಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಇಡೀ ವರ್ಷ ಬಾಕಿ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಓದಿ ಯಾವಾಗ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ತಿನ್ಬಹುದು. So knowledge also is multifactorial. All these shabdo yata buddhi drishta sanyogaja, it is multifactorial influence is always there in attaining knowledge and also retaining that particular knowledge. So mind always needs a constant practice. ದೇವರು ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ವರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಗೆ, ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಮರೆವು, forgetfulness. Forgetting is the biggest boon the God has given. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವು ಪದಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ. ಸ್ಮಶಾನ ವೈರಾಗ್ಯ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ತೀರಿ ಹೋದಾಗ ಸ್ಮಶಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಸುಟ್ಟು ಬರುವವರೆಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದ ನಂತರ ಒಂದು ಗಂಜಿ ಊಟ ಅಂತ, ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ ಮತ್ತೆ ವಡಪಾವ್ ತಿನ್ಲಿಕ್ಕ ಗೋಬಿ ಮಂಚೂರಿ ತಿನ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಹುದು. ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಕಿತ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕಿನ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆಯವರು ಹೆಗಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟವರೆಲ್ಲ. ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ಹೆಗಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಣ ಸುಡ್ತಾ ಇರುವಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಇದ್ ಕತೆ ಕೂಡ ಮಾತಾಡುವವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ರೀಸೆಂಟ್ಲಿ ಐ ಅಟೆಂಡೆಡ್ ಅ ಫ್ಯೂನರಲ್, ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ವೈಸ್. ಆಂಬ್ಯುಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು, ಎದ್ರು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡದ್ದು ಡ್ರೈವರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಹೆಲ್ಪಿಗೆ ಬಂದವರು, ಅವರು ಲೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮೂವಿದ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Now Sattva, Raja and Tama, there is a mutual influence. I told Raja and Tama also help to control the Sattva. Sattva is enlightening. It is needed. A greater component of Sattva is needed to learn new things and to remember it. But if Raja, motivational factor, is not there, Tama is not there, controlling factor, then you are gone for a toss. So all three have to be in a proper balance. So this is not my statement, it is highlighted. Sattvam vruddham vishuddha jnana jananat rajastamasi samsara karane vijitya prakriti purusha viveka jnanat moksham avahati. ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಬದುಕಿದಾಗಲೇ ಮೋಕ್ಷ ಪಡಿಬೇಕಂತ ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಬದುಕಿರುವಾಗಲೇ ನನಗೆ ಮೋಕ್ಷ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಮೋಕ್ಷ ಭೂಮಿ ಮೇಲೇನೆ. ಮನೆಯವರು ಒದ್ದು ಫಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸೈಕ್ಯಾಟ್ರಿಸ್ಟ್ ಹತ್ರ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ನೀವು ಇಡೀ ದಿನ 24 ಗಂಟೆ ನಾನು ಧ್ಯಾನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಕೂರ್ತೇನೆ, ಏನು ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಮನೆಯದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡು, ಪಾತ್ರೆ ತೊಳೆಯೋದು ಯಾರು, ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಒಣಗಿಸಿ ಹಾಕೋದು ಯಾರು ಅಂತ ಶುರು ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ you need everything. Whatever your part of duty you have to indulge in, you cannot concentrate. Though sattva is very good, not possible. All other duties have to be done. Recently we had a patient. I don't blame any sciences, any religion, any followers for that particular reason, but he was too into Krishna consciousness. There was some marital disharmony, and for everything he is telling, it's not my mistake. So handling him was a very difficult task for me. I referred actually to a counselor, but then they also referred him back to me. Possibly they were also fed up, I don't know. And he is not ready to listen to anything of yours. He says, if Krishna has decided that, who am I to change it? Who are you to change it? No, you have to understand like this. You have to understand. He keeps on educating me. And the moment he comes into the OPD, all our interns and PG doctors will leave the room one after the other. Then all is left is me and him. So now sattva going into too much height with no controlling or a regulating factor also is not good. So that is described as deva jushta unmada. It's a form of a psychosis as described even in Ayurvedic text. So I was speaking something about this naishtiki chikitsa, that is again related with moksha. Now I said, do you want to go into moksha as long as you are living, in the sense not to take too much of sattva, but not causing harm to others, or believing that I should not be a cause of harm to others. Not committing bad. That is most important here. I should realize that whatever wrong I do, I am going to be the ultimate sufferer of that. If I realize that I will be punished, then goodness will prevail. Atra karmaha phalam chatra jnanam chatra pratishtitam atra moha sukam dukam jivitam maranam swata. Whatever I do, I am committed for all this. My living, my lifespan, my death, my happiness, my sorrow, everything is based on my actions. Evam yo veda tatvena sa veda pralayodayau. Onset and end, everything is decided based on that. Paramparyam chikitsam cha jnatavyam yacchakinchana. So that paramparya or parampara of that karma siddhanta, it prevails. And that form of chikitsa, what you consider based on this, is called as a naishtiki chikitsa. The same cause is highlighted here. Dhi vibramsha, dhriti vibramsha and smriti vibramsha is responsible for all mental derangements as well as physical derangements as well, psychic as well as somatic ailments. So whatever I highlighted under that prajnaparada, entire list is given here. Knowingly, I told vega dharana should not be there. Certain vegas, udirana, I should not indulge in creating those. Udiradam gatimatam, Udirnanam cha nigraha, controlling the urges of defecation or of urination of anything. Udiranam gatimatam, too much indulgence in adharaniya vegas of greed, anger, things like that. Too much indulgence in physical activity above your capacity. So I know that I cannot lift a rice bag of 25 kgs, but somebody is watching me, at least to impress, let me lift. Not good. Sevanam sahasanam, narinam chati sevanam, excessive indulgence in sexual intercourse. Now that also is highlighted, a different topic on a different platform to be discussed, but anyway not needed here. Karma kalati patascha mithyarambascha karmanam. Indulgence in activity not suitable to the time factor, not suitable to the place, or not suitable to the person also. Vinayachara lopascha pujyanam cha abhigarshanam. Obedience. Not obeying with your higher authorities. Pujyanam cha abhigarshanam. Quarreling with elderly or your boss in a workplace. Jnatanam swayam arthanam ahitanam nishevanam. Knowingly again indulging in certain wrong deeds. Parama aunmadikanam cha pratyayanam nishevanam. Some cause for mental derangement is highlighted. You indulge in that knowingly. Akala adesha sanchara maitri sanklishta karma bihi. Here the example given is akala adesha sanchara. When some war is going on, don't travel to those areas. In the night, don't visit burial places. All these are told. Tomorrow, if you have some frightfulness or you become phobic, develop a phobic anxiety disorder, you yourself are to be blamed. So if you are afraid of something, then don't indulge in such things. So likewise, performing any such activities, knowingly indulging in all those wrong form of activities is all said to be cause of diseases. So pradnyaparadam tam shishta bruvate vyadi karanam. Ultimately, pradnyaparada itself is the cause for all disorders. Now whenever we analyze a patient, we analyze that based on the definition of this psychotic disorder. So there is a definition. Unmadam punaha mano buddhi samnya jnana smriti bhakti shila cheshtachara vibramam vidyat. 9 factors are told. Its analysis also is appropriately described here. Mano vibhrama, here manas is a specific term for discriminating. So chintyan arthan na chintayate achintyamscha chintayate. So always we say that we have to live in the present. Don't live in the past, don't live for the future. Living in the future. Live in the present. Ninne enaitu, that's a what? Cancelled check. Future is a blank check. Today is something what is written and signed, encash it. So just like that, live in the present. React appropriately to circumstances. Something happened in the past. Don't brood about what happened in the past. Don't always worry thinking what will happen in the future. Russia, Ukraine at war. Don't think that that war will start here in India. So today, from today, stop eating, drinking. Anyway, war is going to happen and then the world is going to end. Possible? No. Think about the present and live in the present. So chintyan arthan chintayate or na chintayate achintyamscha chintayate. Sometimes we also have a quotation as meeting the trouble before the horizon. ತೊಂದರೆಗಳು ಬರುವ ಮೊದಲೇನೆ ತೊಂದರೆಯನ್ನು ಆಹ್ವಾನಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಉಂಟಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಬ್ರೋಕನ್. ದೆನ್ ಬುದ್ಧಿ ವಿಭ್ರಮಾತ್ ನಿತ್ಯಂ ಅನಿತ್ಯಮಿತಿ ಪ್ರಿಯಂ ಅಪ್ರಿಯಮಿತಿ. ವೆನ್ ಬುದ್ಧಿ ಆರ್ ದ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಮಿನೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಪವರ್, ಯುವರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಮಿನೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಪವರ್ ಇಸ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್. You may not be able to analyze what is good for you and what is bad for you. Your discrimination or discriminative power gets affected. Samnya is jnana, or samnya also refers to the consciousness or alertness. So kimva samnya nama ullekhena jnanam. So samnya is lost means your sensations, touch with reality. Agni adi daham na buddhyate. Even if you are getting burnt also, you are not realizing. Smrati vibhramat na smarati ayathavat va smarati. Short circuit. Now odi bandide. ಯಾರ್ದ ಡೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬರ್ತ್ ಬರೆಯೋ ಬದಲು ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರ್ದ ಬರೆಯುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಭಕ್ತಿ ಇಚ್ಛಾ, Bhakti is desire or like and dislike. Yatra purvam ichha asit tatra anichha bhavati. I was liking something previously. Now I am not liking that. And that is after the onset of the disease. So we analyze all these aspects in a patient, whoever we believe that his psychological component is affected. And it is also a method of analyzing the psychological aspects or parameters of the individual. Sheela Vibhramat, behavioral aspects now. The person was not so intolerance, or he was not so restless. Now suddenly for very small things he is getting irritated or restless. ಶಾಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಾಗ ಟೀಚರ್ ಅನಗತ್ಯ ಯಾರಿಗಾದ್ರೂ ಬೈದ್ರೆ ಆವಾಗ ಹಾಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದಿತ್ತು ಮಕ್ಕಳು. ಇವತ್ತೆಲ್ಲಿಯ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಡತಿಯೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಗಲಾಟೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹೆಂಡತಿ ಬೈದಿದ್ದಾಳೆ ಕಾಣ್ತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ನಮ್ ಬೈತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಚೇಷ್ಟಾ ವಿಭ್ರಮಾತ್, it is anuchita cheshta bhavati. The activity what the individual does also is not appropriate. Throwing off the clothings when he is in the society along with other people. When he is alone, that is fine. But then in being in company of somebody else, no. Achara vibhrama, that is achara is shastra shikshakrata vyavahara. So your behavioral patterns that are modified in your social educational backgrounds. So we learned to dress decently. If I come today in front of you wearing a Bermuda and a Sando banyan and stand here to give a lecture, possibly by now I would have been kicked out by the watchman. They would have not allowed me to enter here. So that decency of being in places, decency of behaving, all these aspects will decide how well cultured the individual is and what is his touch or what is his orientation to the time, place and person. So it is based on these parameters we try to assess. Now apart from this, there is something called as manasika kaya. So satvika kaya, rajasika kaya, tamasika kaya. So again under them individually we have separate personality traits on the basis of which we decide whether the person has a normal trait, personality trait, whether he has a deviation, whether he has a specific tendency to suffer from certain disease aspects. So accordingly in counseling we take up all these, even for healthy individuals, like what are the, we do a SWOT analysis also, strength, weakness, yes, opportunities, threats. We do all these analysis for individuals also even before we go in for a career guidance program. So this is now made compulsory in most of the high schools, colleges, even for professional colleges like us. So we try to analyze individuals based on these personality traits to know if they have some specific predictions for certain disorders. And accordingly we advise them what type of work is suitable for them. Are they open for working in such circumstances like corporate sector wherein they have to work under a lot of stress conditions, apart from the time, overtime working, or he is good for a 9 to 5 white collar job, things like that. So now these are parameters on which we help to decide the strength or otherwise of the mind as well. That completes the presentation. Any doubts on this particular aspect? Questions may please be asked. Okay. So alternate therapies in the sense like this marma therapy is actually a science that is described in Ayurveda itself. We have certain concepts. There are about 107 marmas described. Now those who have watched the Indian movie, Kamal Haasan's Indian starring Indian movie, some manipulations of certain vital points in the body that can help to seize the functions. So step up functioning or down regulating of certain functions in the body is possible by manipulating these points. So there are various practices like Varma practice in Tamil Nadu, Marma practice in Kerala. Ayurvedic different treatment is there. Even Chinese acupuncture, acupressure techniques are all similar to this. Of course, the points are decided based on certain confluences of anatomical structures. So by manipulating them, manipulating in the sense it is an optimum pressure exerted either with the tip of a little finger or an index finger or a thumb or with the point of the elbow or with the palm. So there are certain dimensions given for these points. So how you can stimulate? Does it need a clockwise or an anti-clockwise massage? Does it need a, if at all it's a, what is called as a mamsa marma, we have to massage it along the direction of its fibers. So suppose I am handling a patient of cervical spondylitis, there are about 8 marmas in the neck which I will be manipulating. So some of them are just making some clockwise movement with the tip of the thumb. Some are just rubbing with the mid part of the thumb, whatever the projection that comes. So now likewise there is something called as 1 matra, 2 matra, 3 matra and 4 matras of pressure to be employed. So now by doing such practices, we either clarify, now the concept is all based on this flow of energy. The Chinese call is as Kai or Chai. Our system says that it is obstruction in the srotasas that we are trying to clear. Now based on the Marma principle is like that. The Prana Tattva, whatever is not adequately flowing. So we promote that flow of Prana Tattva. They say that they are clearing the Kai or the Chai. So it's not a new concept to Ayurveda, it is being practiced, but then it needs a separate, it has to be learnt under the direct guidance of a guru. So I am not a very much expert in that, I had just had basic 3 sessions of that, it's still a lot of things, but then we have seen people improving. Now, even from the modern science, we say that anybody who has a spinal cord injury, with the weakness in all the 4 limbs, they usually do not recover. So hemisection of the spinal cord, they can only stabilize the spinal column, but the spinal cord will not recover. That is what science says. But then we have seen people with the spinal cord injury. Personally, I have seen one patient of spinal cord injury, a person who fell from a coconut tree. So he was not very much efforting. So initially they stabilized him with a plate and screw, but then he came down for this Marma Chikitsa at a place where I was going in Trivandrum. And there is a special treatment under that called Adangal. Adangal Marma is again related with the head and neck area. They don't teach it to any outsider other than their direct disciple or their family members. So it is handed over only to their family. That is the custom that they practice. So with that manipulation, they hold the person at the head and the neck with the particular grip. The other attendant holds him by the leg. The entire body is suspended and dragged by these 2 individuals. And with that he does quick manipulation of the head and the neck, pressing on certain points. It is so quick that we cannot even grasp. They don't ask to videograph that particular. But then what has happened is we have observed that in 6 months time, that patient who was totally a vegetative, could not even move his fingers and all, he was able to stand with a walker. So even that much amount of improvement if we are able to give in a vegetative patient, it is well and good. Now I don't know if that much improvement comes in all patients, but there are their own ways of assessment whether any patient would recover or not. They say that if a patient has started losing dhatu in urine, they say they just check the turbidity of urine by putting it in water. If it is sinking, they say that it is asadhya, incurable. They don't attempt the treatment because we called the same Vaidya here once to Udupi, the ex-seer of Pejavar Mutt. So one of the distant relatives of him who met with an accident, he was an employee at MRPL in Mangalore. So a boy of around 21 years who met with an accident just on the day of his first day of job itself. So 23 years of age. So 6 months later we contacted him to come. So he tested and said that it cannot be treated. So alternate treatments are slowly incorporated into Ayurvedic system, but then they were there previously. Now even for the same thing, Nadi Pariksha, being able to diagnose a disease just by checking the pulse, now that is also there in certain places in India, but then they don't teach it for anybody. So I also approached one particular Vaidya in near Lucknow. His grandson was our student at our college. So when I approached, they said, if you are ready to come and stay here for 2 years, then I am ready to teach you. Now I cannot afford giving up everything and going and staying there for 2 years. So he was supposed to teach him to this so-called means related grandson, not a direct grandson, but then by the time this person Came to the final year, that person passed away. He was that time aged 79.
Hello, sir. We come across a statement from our grandparents when I was very young, Langanam Parama Aushadham. So when we feel indigestion or something heavy, bloated feel, my grandmother used to say, don't eat anything, Langanam Parama Aushadham. But nowadays, if I keep when I fast or something due to indigestion, my doctor cousins say don't do that, that may aggravate the problem because of the secretion of the gastric juice or the bile juice. So how to tackle this situation? This is the biggest confusion.
There are a lot of controversial aspects, especially when it comes to modern scientific understanding and understanding in terms of Ayurvedic rationals. See, first of all, the logic is very simple. Why Ayurveda says Langanam Paramaushadam? In most of the disease conditions, especially the Ayurvedic concepts say that there are two categories of diseases. One is, we say, based on certain aggravation of doshas. We call it as Nija Vyadhi. One more is Agantu, that is based on external factors, trauma, mental affliction, things like that. So when it is a mental affliction or some other reason, external reason related with the disease, we say no fasting. But if at all it is due to faulty dietary habits or activities, then most of the diseases will have some impairment of our digestion or metabolic principles. And again, today, researchers have proved that intermittent fasting, even a Nobel Prize is given for that, that there is something called as an autophagy that develops. Your own phagocytic cells become so competent that whatever the abnormal multiplying cells in the body that have a tendency, latent tendency for development of cancer, such cells are also equally removed from your system when you practice rightly the method of fasting. So in Ayurvedic texts, Langanam Paramaushadam is mentioned, but then there is Dasha Prakara Langana told. So Chatushprakara Samshuddhi, Pachanani Upavasascha Vyayamascheti Langanam. So now whatever I mentioned as the Panchakarma, now under that the four initial, other than the Rakta Mokshana, those four types of Shodhana also comes under Langana. Langana, one interpretation is Alpa Ahara also. Alpa Ahara. You take food, but then which is easy for digestion and nourishing enough. So in our side, coastal Karnataka, usually we recommend consumption of Ganji, rice along with that cooked water itself. So more of water will be there. It is a nourishing diet which can easily be digested. Now even modern counterpart for that matter would not disagree with the fact that digestion utilizes lot of energy. There is lot of energy expenditure utilized in digesting the food. So when you want to your body energy to focus on combating the disease, building up the immunity, definitely you would not want this energy to be expended, extra energy to be expended on digestion of the food. And that is true for any person who is having a cold or a cough or an headache. Most of the times we feel that when they are having too much of heavy food, their sneezing, cold and headache or the other symptoms of body ache and all does get aggravated. But if they are fasting, consuming only hot water, so fasting does not always mean absolute fasting. Fasting is done in various ways. Consuming light, easily digestible diet is also fasting. Consuming only hot water is also fasting. Consuming buttermilk, that is Udhrata Navanita we say, after it is churned, added with a little water and the butter is extracted. Now that also is a form of fasting only. So it is called Takra Sahita Upavasa, Jala Sahita, Sajala Upavasa likewise. So fasting can be done in various ways. Now if somebody person is having an acidity related problem, we don't recommend absolute fasting. So Nirjala Upavasa is not advocated. Either he has to go for Sajala Upavasa or it is Satakra Upavasa or Lagu Bhojana.
I have one more question. ನಮ್ಮ ಅಜ್ಜಿಯರು ಅಥವಾ ತಾತಂದ್ರು ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಶತಮಾನಂ ಭವತಿ ಶತಾಯುಃ ಪುರುಷ ಶತೇಂದ್ರಿಯ ಆಯುಷ್ಯೇವೇಂದ್ರಿಯ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠತಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಹಲೋ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದ ಮಾಡೋರು. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಆಯುರ್ವೇದಕ್ಕೆ ರಿಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಾದ್ರೆ, ಏಕೆಂದರೆ ಇದೊಂದು ಶ್ಲೋಕ ಅಂತ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಜ್ಞಾನವಂತರೇ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರೈಸ್ ಆಗೋಗಿದೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸುಭಾಷಿತ ಥರನೂ ಹೇಳಬಹುದು. ಇದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಆಯುರ್ವೇದ ಮುಖಾಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಹೇಗೆ, ಅಂದರೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ರಿಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು?
ನಾವು ಬ್ಲೆಸ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ಅ ಗುಡ್ ವಿಲ್ ಇನ್ ವೇರಿಯಸ್ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮೊಡಾಲಿಟೀಸ್. ಈಗ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಚಿಕಿತ್ಸೆ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಈ ಪಂಚಕರ್ಮದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಶೇಷವಾಗಿ ಬರುವಾಗ, ನಾಟ್ ದಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಪಂಚಕರ್ಮಾಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೆರಿ ಸೇಫ್. ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಕೋವಿಡ್, ದಟ್ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ಡ್ ಅ ಲಾಟ್. ಅದರ ಮೊದಲು ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅದರ ನಂತರ ಈಗಲೂ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಈಗ ಮಸಾಜ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಪೇಷಂಟಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಟೇಬಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಲಗಿಸಿ ಎಣ್ಣೆ ತಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ವೇರ್ ದ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಕೊಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಸಾಜ್. ನಾವು ವಮನ ಕರ್ಮ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಕಫ ವ್ಯಾಧಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ, ಚರ್ಮದ ಕೆಲವು ಕಾಯಿಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ, ತುರಿಕೆ, ಎಕ್ಸಿಮಾ ಇಂಥ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ವಮನ ಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಪೇಷಂಟಿಗೆ ವಾಂತಿ ಮಾಡಿಸುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿಸುವಾಗ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸಲ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದು ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ 240/140 ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. So only if we monitor, we know that the patient's blood pressure is going to such alarming heights. ಈಗ ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಅವರು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿಯಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು MBBS ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್, ನನ್ನ ಒಬ್ಬ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಇದ್ದ, ಅವನು ಇಂಥದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಆಯುರ್ವೇದಿಕ್ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನ ತಂದೆ ಆಯುರ್ವೇದಿಕ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್. ಸೊ ಈ ವಾಸ್ ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ವೆನ್ ಈ ಫೌಂಡ್, ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ವಾ, BP ಅಷ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಒಂದು ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು ಸಬ್ಲಿಂಗೋಲ್ ಒಂದು ನೆಫಿಡೆಪಿನ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬಹುದಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ಡೆಪಿನ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬಹುದಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು 10 mg ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು. ಅವ್ನು ಕೂಡಲೇ BP ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಏನಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು ನಾವು. ಇನ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ಸ್ಟಡಿಂಗ್, ನಾನು ಕಲಿತಾ ಇರುವಾಗ BMS ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ದಿಸ್ ವಾಸ್ ಇನ್ 97, one 16-year girl who used to come with her granny to our hospital, and one day the granny told, ಇವಳ ಮೇಲೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ KMC, ಒಂದು ಮಾಡರ್ನ್ ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ ಅವರು, ಏನು ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ ಕೇಳಿದಾಗ ಅವಳದು BP ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಉಂಟಂತೆ, ಹಾಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟಿಗೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರೀ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅಂತ. ಏನು BP ಎಷ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಅವಳದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದೆ. ಅದು ಮೇಲೆದು ಎಷ್ಟಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೆ, ಅದು ಕೆಳಗೆದೆ 200 ಇದೆ ಅಂತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಅಬೌವ್ 300 ಸಿಸ್ಟೋಲಿಕ್ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಡಯಾಸ್ಟೋಲಿಕ್ 200. ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಮದ್ದು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದಾರಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಮದ್ದು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ನೋಡಿದಾರಂತೆ ಅವರು, ಏನು ಕಮ್ಮಿ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತೆ BP. ನೌ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನಾಟ್ ಮೆಡಿಕಲಿ, ಎನಿಬಡಿ ಕ್ಯಾನಾಟ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಅ 16-year-old ಗರ್ಲ್ ಸಸ್ಟೈನಿಂಗ್ ಅ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಬೌವ್ 300/200 ಆರ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್. 140/90 ಬಾರ್ಡರ್ ಲೈನ್, 200/120 ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಮ್ಯಾಲಿಗ್ನೆಂಟ್ ಹೈಪರ್ ಟೆನ್ಷನ್. ಯಾವತ್ತು ರೆಟಿನಲ್ ಬ್ಲೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಬಹುದು, ರೀನಲ್ ಇಂಪೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬರಬಹುದು. ಬಟ್ ದಟ್ ಗರ್ಲ್ ಈಸ್ ಸಸ್ಟೈನಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ವೆರಿ ವೆಲ್. ಎಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟಿಗೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, MRI, ಆಂಜಿಯೋಗ್ರಫಿ, ಕೆರೋಟಿಡ್ ಆಂಜಿಯೋಗ್ರಫಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅವರು. ನೋ ಅಬ್ನಾರ್ಮ್ಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಡಿಟೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್. ಕಿಡ್ನಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಹೆಲ್ದಿ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ದೇ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಡೂ ವಾಸ್ ಕಾರ್ಡಿಯಾಕ್ ಕ್ಯಾಥೆಟ್ರೈಸೇಷನ್. ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಉಂಟು ಅಂತ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ವೇಸಿವ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕ್ಗೆ ಅವ್ರು ನೋ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದವ್ರು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಲು ಇಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಐ ಸಾ ದಟ್ ಗರ್ಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅನದರ್ 8 to 10 years. ಶಿ ವಾಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾರಿಡ್, ಶಿ ಕನ್ಸೀವ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ನಾವು ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ವಿ ಸ್ಪೀಕ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕಲಿ, ಮೆಡಿಕಲಿ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಟ್ರೂ. ಈಗ ನಾವು ವಮನ ಕರ್ಮ ಮಾಡುವಾಗಲೂ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಕೆಲವು ಮಂತ್ರಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿಕೊಂಡೇ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಉಂಟು. ಔಷಧಿ ನಾವು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ಕೂಡ ಗಿಡದ ಹತ್ರ ನಾವು ನಿಂತು ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಹಿಂದಿನ ದಿವಸ ಆಮೇಲೆನೆ ಔಷಧಿ ತೆಗಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಉಂಟು. ಅಮಾವಾಸ್ಯ ದಿನ ಯಾವ ಔಷಧಿ ತೆಗಿಬೇಕು, ಹುಣ್ಣಿಮೆ ದಿನ ಯಾವ ಔಷಧಿ ತೆಗಿಬೇಕು, ಅದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಉಂಟು. ಹಾಗಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ತಲುಪ್ತದಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಡಿಬೇಟೇಬಲ್. ಈಗ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ನಾವು ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಈಗ ಮಂತ್ರ ಪಠಣ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರಮ ಇದೆ. ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಸೂಕ್ತ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಅದರದ್ದೇ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟ ಉಚ್ಚಾರ, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಸ್, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್, ಅದರದ್ದು ಅಲ್ಪ, ಅದರದ್ದು ಮಹತ್, ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಒತ್ತು ಕೊಡಬೇಕು, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಕ್ರಮ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಮಂತ್ರದ ಲಾಭ ಬರ್ಲೇಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಲ್ತು ಮಾಡಿಸುವವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೇನೆ ಅದರದ್ದು ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣ ಲಾಭ. ಇನ್ನು ಮಂತ್ರವನ್ನು ಹೀಗೆ ನೀವೊಂದು ಗುಡ್ ವಿಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಸ್ತಿ ವಾಚನ, ಮಂಗಲ ವಾಚನ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ವೈದ್ಯರೇ ಮಾಡಿ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ನಾವು ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಪುನಃ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣರನ್ನು ಕರೆದು ಅವರ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿಸುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಪೇಷಂಟ್ ಇನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ದೇನು ಅಭ್ಯಂತರ ಇರುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈಗ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ಆಯುಸ್ಸು ಆಯುರ್ವೇದದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದ ಲೆಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ 100 ವರ್ಷವೇ. But over the matter of time, it has now reduced. Life expectancy reduce agide with the ಇಂಪ್ರೂವಿಂಗ್ ಹೆಲ್ತ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್. ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ಪೂರ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ 50 ಇತ್ತು, 60 ಇತ್ತು, ಅದರ ನಂತರ ಈಗ ನಾವು 80 ರೀಚ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದೇ ಲಾಜಿಕ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುದು, ಹಿತಾಯು ಸುಖಾಯು. ಯು ಆರ್ ಸರ್ವೈವಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಏಜ್ ಆಫ್ 60 or 80 or whatever it is, ಬಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. ಯು ಆರ್ ಸರ್ವೈವಿಂಗ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ ದ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಈಸ್ ಪುವರ್. Hardly prolongation of lifespan always does not ensure that your quality of life has improved. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದೇ ನಾವು ಈಗ ಔಷಧಿ ಕೊಡುವಾಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಇದೇ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ, ಚಿಕ್ಕವರು ದೊಡ್ಡವರ ಹತ್ರ ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದ ಮಾಡುವಾಗಲೂ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಅಧಿಕಾರ ಇದೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಆಶೀರ್ವಾದ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಮಂತ್ರದ ಹಾಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಳಿಸುವವ್ರ ಹತ್ರವೇ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಅದು ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇದೆ. ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡಿಸುವಾಗ ನೀವು ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣೇನ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫೈ ವರ್ಡ್ ಉಂಟು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ, ನೀವು ಅವರನ್ನು ಕರೆಸಿ ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರದಿಂದ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು.
I have a question. Sir, for some chronic diseases like cancer, the treatment is very expensive. If you go for immunotherapy or chemotherapy, you are aware of that. Immunotherapy for every 21 days, if the cancer is in the 4th stage, every 21 days the injection costs around 1.5 lakhs. And even chemotherapy treatment is also expensive. It may come to around 6 to 8 lakhs. But maybe alternative in Ayurveda also you may be having some treatment. But still people, they don't trust that this one. They want to go for English medicine only. This techniques what I told. We want to share something in this regard.
So at Munial Hospital where I am currently working, so we are having a Mahoshadha Kalpa project. That Mahoshadha is again one of the treatment modalities that is highlighted in the Buddhist principles. So any big disease for that matter is considered as Mahoshadha, and there the principle says that intelligence is not in the mind, intelligence is there in every cell. So what a cell wants, what a cell does not want, that reflects to your likes and dislikes. You should learn to identify them. Now based on these principles and then certain other preachings, it was our chairman, who happens to be a Vedic doctor, who graduated from the initial HPMS course from Government Ayurveda College, Mysore. So we run a pharmacy also, a GMP certified pharmacy. So certain medicines have been developed for the management of this cancer. I don't say cure, but for the management of cancer. So it is available in 5 different forms. So Munex 1, 2, 3, and again under that in 2 there are 2 subtypes again. In 1 also there are 2 subtypes. So and along with our principal, who happens to be my senior, I have been a co-participant in this particular project. Now we are running it as a full-time treatment option. What we have realized and what we have found these days is there are lot of patients who opt Ayurveda as a primary modality of treatment in conditions where we are able to give them a clear picture about what is the role of Ayurveda in these management. We have lot of patients who are in a terminal state of breast cancer, terminal stage of prostate cancer, which has spread into the bones, skeletal metastasis. And these patients, at least who were there on morphine, 2 shots of morphine per day, we were able to at least give them a peaceful death. Not that we killed them early, but their end was painless. So that quality of life we are able to give with Ayurvedic medicines. We do these Panchakarma procedure depending upon how well they can tolerate and things like that, our own assessment parameters. Initial stage, we have got a few breast cancer patients, thyroid cancer patients, liver cancer patients, even pancreatic cancer, who have responded very well. There are a few patients who have directly come to us. The moment the doctor said chemotherapy, they have rejected the treatment and they have come to Ayurvedic treatment. Now the benefit of our plan of treatment is that one of our consulting doctors, he is an oncologist in Scotland. So he happens to be the elder brother's son of our chairman. So Mr. Jeevan Shetty. So he gives us full support. Now from his link, we have been able to approach another oncologist, renowned oncologist from Mangalore. So he is the director of Mangalore Institute of Oncology. So they have recently now opened up a daycare center in Udupi also. In yesteryears, if somebody believed that a cancer patient can just go, it is like taking a set of drips and coming back home in 3 hours, nobody would have believed. People 10 years back would have laughed. Today it is a reality. For chemotherapy, people go, take a dose of medicine and come back to their house. So they stay in the house. And today we have again these palliative care centers also. Very big hospitals, standard institutions also have opened up palliative care. So they don't, previously they had objection with the other systems of medicine interfering. Today they have no objection. We get reference from KMC Manipal, KMC Mangalore, from AJ Shetty, all leading hospitals, we get referral to manage Ayurvedic way. Of course, they closely monitor the patient. They sometimes even, there are a lot of cancer symposiums they hold where we go and discuss our treatment protocol. So these days, I don't say Ayurveda as a cure, but we have got a complete disappearance of the lesions. In a few percentage of patients with thyroid cancer, liver cancer, in lung cancer conditions, early stage, breast cancer also we have got where the lesion has altogether disappeared, which we have confirmed with the PET scan also. So in the end stage, now we have to just understand what is the purpose of our treatment. So is it curative or is it palliative or is it only to improve the quality of life? So even if we are able to reduce the dependency on morphine, of course the patient develops lot of hallucination, keeps on shouting. It is not only a disturbance to the patient, who even in that sleep or that state of semi-conscious stage will keep on brooding, make grunting sounds and things like that. Whoever is close to the patient, the bystanders, attendants, relatives, they also feel very pitiable for the patient. Now all that state is definitely overcome with our medicines. I don't say in all conditions, but at least in 30 to 40% of patients, whoever were admitted, we admit such end stage patients also in our hospital with collaboration of these modern hospitals. So in those circumstances, what we have found is we are able to give them a good quality of life, at least till their last days. In rare circumstances, yes, some of them have opted Ayurvedic treatment or Ayurvedic modality as their first option. It all depends upon the type of medicines. Now, we have got very costly medicines also. Say for example, Swarna Basma if we are giving, or Vajra Basma also we give, this diamond prepared into Basma. Some physicians opt for this Basmas at the initial stage itself. That would take the treatment cost per month cost somewhere to 2 to 3 lakhs also. But at our hospital, we are not using so costly or exuberant medicines. The maximum cost of treatment at our hospital, whatever medicines we are trying to manage, hardly comes around, per month cost would be, I think, lesser than 50,000. If they are staying and taking a course of Panchakarma therapy, maybe one course of treatment for 10 to 12 days would cost around 60,000 or so, including food, dietary food specific to them or specific to the medicine what we are giving. Because when we say diet, diet is specific to the individual, diet specific to the disease, and diet specific to the medicines what we are giving as well. So all these three we will have to consider and give. So when we plan these medicines, of course all food that we use is again organic based. What is cultivated in our own fields and then utilized in our hospital. So cost again, as I told you, I think hardly less than 50,000 per month. Sometimes it is even more economical, say 15,000 or 12,000 to 15,000 also. All depends upon the stage and how much of metastasis spread, other conditions are there. It all goes with that. If the patient comes in a stage where there is multi-organ failure, like after chemotherapy, they have a cardiomyopathic condition, CKD has already set in, kidney disease has set in, we have a very tough time managing such patients. In between, patient develops ascites, retention of urine, we will need the help from the modern counterpart or emergency team also. So we will be shifting patients frequently from our hospital to theirs, or their emergency team will come into our hospital. If possible, they will manage here, otherwise they will ask the patient to be shifted. So in those conditions, treatment cost may go high. Otherwise, we are not with very costly medicines. Rather, we balance the cost versus the effect. So if we are very sure that that extra costly medicine is not going to make wonders. Now, suppose one medicine which costs 1 rupee and another medicine costs 15 rupees, until and I am very sure that at least that 15 rupees tablet is going to act at least 2 to 3 times faster. I don't say 15 times faster, at least it is not double faster. I don't need that costly medicine. So I go with the cheaper medicine itself, because it may take only double the days. That's all. One day it will take 2 days.
Thank you, sir, for delivering such a wonderful session on showing the importance of Ayurveda in everyone's life. I request Dr. Pravin Kumar Melali, sir, and Dr. Bhagyashree, ma'am, to felicitate our resource person, Dr. Ravishankar Shenoy, sir. I would request you guys to ask your questions in the lunch break. When we have lunch break, we can have a communication over there itself.